thank you once again for getting up so early and joining us for our business breakfast. The good news is this is our last business breakfast for the spring semester, but you're in for a treat today hearing Ellen Politi talk about her job. So Ellen Politi is the Vice President of Affiliate Relations for Telemundo, and she oversees the marketing and sales support for the network's 57 affiliate stations. Her job is to develop and implement strategic initiatives to address audience growth and business challenges. She does this by collaborating with the station general managers, the marketing and sales directors, and to create customized action plans that include targeted messaging, media planning, and marketing. Before joining Telemundo in 2000, Ellen was VP of International Sales for King World International. And prior to King World, she spent 10 years building her experience in advertising, media research, and media planning at leading New York City ad agencies. Ellen is very much a part of the Concordia family. For many years, her son Nick studied cello and composition at the conservatory, and he is now a sophomore at Oberlin College Conservatory majoring in composition. Ellen served on the Conservatory Advisory Board. In fact, I think you went on right as I went off in 2008 through 2011. And most recently, she was a marketing advisor on the newly opened Concordia Conservatory in Stamford, Connecticut. So this morning, Ellen will be sharing with you how she will tackle her next big challenge, which is to maximize Telemundo's coverage and marketing of the World Cup, which, by the way, is the most widely viewed sporting event in the world. Please join me in welcoming Ellen Politi.
Thank you, Joyce. Good.
The story of my life.
Live life, don't let life live you.
In less than 3 months, Telemundo will make history with more than 1,500 hours of coverage of the single most important sporting event in the Spanish language media world, the FIFA World Cup Russia 2018. Good morning, buenos días, bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the introduction, Joyce. This morning, I am going to spend some time talking to you about the World Cup, which has pretty much consumed my life for the last few months, and certainly it has been the focal point for Telemundo for the past 7 years, believe it or not. Back in 2011, Telemundo and our parent company, Comcast, pretty much stunned the Spanish language and the media world when we outbid Univision to win the rights to broadcast the World Cup en Espanol on Telemundo for the next 12 years. This is historic because Telemundo had never had these rights, and it's a game changer for us. Forever, Univision, since the beginning of Spanish language broadcast television, our big rival Univision had the rights, and they were defined by, the World Cup and Univision went hand in hand. So it was a big deal, and as I said, a game changer for Telemundo and for our company. So this morning, our agenda, sorry about the font here, we're going to go through a few things here. And so since this is set up and billed as a marketing presentation, I loosely set this up in categories as one might build a marketing plan. We'll start off talking about the product. Of course, that's the World Cup. We'll take a look at some of the numbers. We'll review what the objectives are for our campaign and for our efforts, both for business and for marketing and for business in general. We'll take a look at what we know. That's the research. What's working in our favor, the Telemundo advantage. What we have to be thinking about, those are our challenges. The pitch, that's the meat and potatoes, or in this case, the rice and beans. That's the creative and how we get it out there. We'll take a look at some of the countdown, some of the tactical things we've taken advantage of during the course of the last few months, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So first, let's talk about the product, the World Cup. The World Cup is the world's biggest sporting event. Let's have a show of hands. Anybody watch the World Cup? Beautiful, that's great. Anybody watch the World Cup en Espanol? Even better, that's great. Who's your favorite, what team are you going for? Brazil, okay. So, the World Cup happens every 4 years, the Men's World Cup, but in fact there's years of planning and there's years of qualifications. There are tournaments throughout the time in between each World Cup. For me, I'm a baseball fan, and I didn't grow up watching soccer, so this experience for me personally has been really exciting and eye-opening, and it's really great to be a part of something that's big around the world. And it's also really exciting that the interest level in the U.S. is growing. The champion from the last World Cup is Germany. In the way that the tournament works, the champion from the previous World Cup is automatically qualified to play in the next World Cup, and the host country team, national team, is automatically qualified to play. So Russia, where the games will be held, is also had an automatic in. The other 30 teams had to qualify, and that happens during the course of the last couple of years during matches that are played in various places around the world. For us, for Telemundo, it's great because we've got 8 teams that are Latin American teams. That's not counting Brazil and Portugal that both qualified. And so there's a high interest level. You might have heard, if you follow soccer at all, you might have heard that the U.S. team did not qualify. When they lost out on participating in this year's World Cup, and by the way, neither did Italy, neither did France, so there were some big teams that didn't qualify this year, but the biggest blow was, of course, for the U.S., and for the English language rights holder in the U.S., which is Fox, that really hurt them from a business standpoint. For us, it's a little bit of a problem, but really not, because Mexico is in it, and Mexico is the team that, for the vast majority of Hispanics in the U.S., is the number one choice, and it's the reason why the world will stop from June 14th to July 15th in Spanish language in the U.S. Hispanic world. Let's talk about scale. The World Cup, Spanish language viewing of the World Cup has a higher reach than the World Cup Brazil from 2014, the NFL, the NBA, the Super Bowl combined. So we're talking about a lot of viewers and a lot of opportunity for us to reach a vast number of people, viewers, and that's important because in the broadcast business, our job is to maximize our audience and deliver value for our advertisers. And this was supposed to be, hold on a second. Okay. I need to escape from this and go to one place here. Here we go. So, as I said before, the road to the World Cup starts a few years before the World Cup actually is broadcast. And last year, the sort of dress rehearsal for us for the World Cup was the Confederations Cup. Confederations Cup is played. It is a tournament that doesn't necessarily lead to a qualification for the World Cup itself. It's more for bragging rights around the world, and it's the champion team from each of the confederations around the world. And it's a 2-week tournament, took place last July, June, July. And Germany, the winner of the World Cup, actually won the Confederations Cup, so they were once again the champions. So we took advantage of that moment the day after, the day of the championship tournament, to reach a maximum number of people and start to build awareness for our coverage of the World Cup with this spot. Okay, let's go back to from current slide. Okay, so why is that? I showed that spot because I wanted to point out that for Spanish language, for the Hispanic population, and for the world in general that loves soccer, soccer's a religious experience. It goes well beyond just a sport. And I think just in terms of how we in the United States are football fans, baseball fans, hockey fans, we have a lot in common. You know, we have rabid fans, we have endless analysis, we have superstar players and their drama, but soccer goes well beyond that, and the World Cup goes well beyond the things that are common with the U.S. sports. This is a global sport, as you know, as we're talking about. So at the end of a 30-day, intensive 30-day tournament, there is a world champion, a true world champion. This is a sport and an event that brings families together from across the room and around the world. Truly the world stops. The level and what we've got going for us this year more than any other year is because this event is so highly social and such a topic of conversation. Social media and digital media are going to play a huge role in our marketing plan. So we're taking full advantage with all of the resources that we have available to us. So as I said, we started with the Confederations Cup back a year ago. There were the final qualifying rounds in the fall. The draw, which took place on December 1st, which we'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes. That was also our sort of unofficial 6 months out kickoff. And just a couple of days ago, we celebrated the 100 days to the World Cup. So now, for us in Telemundo, for broadcast, for marketing, for advertising, it's a race, and we are now really counting down. We've been counting down for years, but this is truly a countdown now. As I mentioned, in December we had the draw. The draw is a lot like your brackets for the NCAA, but on a world scale. And it was very exciting to watch and understand how this all got put together. And there's a big strategy, and I'm not going to go through that because it's a topic for another time. But as you can see, these are the 32 teams. These are the matchups. During the first 2 weeks of play, all of the action takes place within the groups. And by the end of the 2 weeks, you've got pretty much 8 teams that are moving into the next rounds of the playoffs until you get to the championship round. And the speculation about there's something called death matches, and the death matches are the ones that pit the highest ranked strongest team against the lowest ranked team. So of course in the grouping here with Germany, the world champion, you'll have a so-called death match with Korea. So it's a fun thing, and listening to the commentators talk about it is quite lively. As I mentioned before, Telemundo is part of Comcast, and Comcast is also an NBC Universal is also a Comcast property. So the advantage that gives us is that we are the home of the biggest and best global sports properties in Spanish language television. Not only do we have the World Cup, but thanks to NBC Universal's rights to the Olympics, we broadcast the Olympics in Spanish, the Summer Olympics, every 4 years as well, and they're coming up again in a couple of years in Tokyo. Let's spend a few minutes talking about research. So, as I mentioned, soccer is the #1 sport for Hispanics, and Telemundo is now the #1 network for Hispanics. That's a huge advantage for us. We looked at three different pillars, let's call them. And we did this proprietary research, which was just completed a couple of weeks ago with a research company called Horowitz. And we looked at fandom and culture. That's the rabid fans we talked about a minute ago. Technology and consumption, how this World Cup will be pretty much different from many others just because of the advance of technology and social media and mobile media. And then audience and brand building. So yeah, the font got a little bit crazy here. Basically on this, what I want you to take away is this is an event that everybody in the United States is either planning to watch on television or on streaming. Somehow or other, they'll watch this game. 90% plan to watch from the beginning till the end. 3/4 will watch on TV, and about half will stream the matches. Millennial Latinos, that's really the heart and soul of who we're trying to reach, and also the hardest group to reach on television. So we were pleased when we saw that they are absolutely ready to watch the World Cup in Espanol on Telemundo. And in fact, half of them say they would rather spend their day hanging out with their favorite soccer team than with family, and almost 3/4 said, 2/3 say they'd rather get in trouble at work to watch the World Cup than to, this slide, I'm sorry about this slide. I have to fix it because you have to see it. You have to, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So anyway, what I want to point out here is that among the 7 items that the respondents were given to choose from, next to holding their child for the first time, the second most important thing to them is their country winning the World Cup. Okay? So if that doesn't give you an idea of the importance of this event for our viewers and for potential viewers, nothing will. So. And then we have, as I mentioned, inherently social. We've got a great opportunity on social media with pretty much everybody saying they're going to share their experience, their viewing experience with their friends across all the media platforms. And this goes even beyond the Hispanic population. 25% of non-Hispanics agree that football is better in Espanol. And in fact, I'm going to show you, just in terms of what we believe is a great way to look at this. You know, when you watch, and actually there's a very funny video that you can look up from an episode of The Simpsons where they also do this sort of comparison of soccer in English and football in Espanol. But let me play the one I have for you. Let's see. So here's a game call in English.
Australia has weathered that storm. I think you had 4 goals inside in the first 5 minutes of the half. Relax. Cruz. Sainsbury is high up the field. Played across. Tracy, if the flag stays down, it's a good goal. Australia has the lead for the first time in this tournament.
All right, sounds like a game, it's okay. Let's hear it in Spanish. You get the idea. So, what is the Telemundo advantage? Well, part of it you just heard, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we also, our huge advantage is being part of the NBC Universal family, which really gives us access to truly many platforms for advertising and promotion through all of the networks of NBC Universal, both the NBC network and all of the cable networks that are part of our family. And we have a program internally that we call Symphony, which is a marketing platform that allows us to cross-promote huge, big events, important events for the company on multiple platforms, and that crosses for Telemundo in Spanish has fewer opportunities because of the language difference, but in the case of the World Cup, it's really been huge for us, and it's worth millions of dollars in promotional value. The second important advantage that we have is Andres Cantor. Andres Cantor, who is the voice of soccer. In case you didn't know who he is, this is him. He's the man behind the goal call, and he's the icon of soccer for Spanish language television. And really, he goes beyond Spanish language. Everybody in the room understood and knew exactly where that call came from. Our third advantage and real volume. Thank you. Thank you. The third advantage we have is our stations. Telemundo and any television network is made up of stations around the country. And we have 77 broadcast stations throughout the country that's owned and affiliate stations. And each of them serves their respective markets, and they market in addition to, and they use the promotional assets that we provide to them in addition to what the network itself is broadcasting on network time. So we have a lot of avenues for promoting, for getting our message out. I wanted to show you the spot here, which is let's see. The mic drop. Sorry, I'm looking for a spot, and we had to do it this way because the video didn't play on here. So as a part of NBC, NBC recently broadcast not only the Olympics, but also broadcast the Super Bowl, which is a big, obviously a big deal for the network, but and a huge viewing opportunity, a huge reach opportunity for us. And we were fortunate to be able to have access to 10-second spot where we ran this spot and reached millions of people. No, it's 10 seconds, but it really made an impact. So we talked about NBC, the power of NBC. We talked about the stations and about Andres Cantor. Let's take a look at some more about our talented team. It's not just Andres Cantor. We have a huge team of commentators with years and years of experience calling games. It's truly the best Spanish language sports team. And it includes Carlos Hermosillo, Manuel Sol, Miguel Gurwitz. We also have just brought on, for the first time ever, we have a female sports commentator. She's from Argentina, Ana Yurka. It's the first time in the U.S. that a female will be part of the World Cup commentating team. So it's an impressive lineup, and it really uses all of the talent that we have. And this is Viviana Villa. I said Ana Yurka, sorry. She's part of our team on Titulares y Más. Viviana Villa is the sports commentator from Argentina who joined our team. So I'm going to talk a little bit about challenges, and then we'll jump into the creative and talk a little bit more about the creative. So challenges. So I mentioned before that Fox has the English language rights, and when the U.S. team didn't qualify, several advertisers actually dropped off of Fox, and we pitched them, and that was great for us. But we never count Fox out. Fox is a competitor, a true competitor, and during the Women's World Cup last year, 2 years ago, last year, we got a taste of how they would promote not just toward their English language viewer base, but also reach out to the Hispanics. So it's important for us in that taught us that we had to work harder to reach out beyond the Hispanic viewer base and appeal to what we call crisscrossers, and those are bilingual viewers who are comfortable watching television in either English or Spanish. So our marketing plan includes going beyond the Spanish language viewing audience. The second big challenge we have is the legacy of Univision. I mean, as much awareness as we're trying to build with all of the reach opportunities that we have, there is still a deep-seated perception that we need to overcome, that Univision is where the World Cup is. And I think that for the core fan base and the super fans, they already know where to find the World Cup. But for the casual viewer, our job is to continue to build awareness and intent to view. The third challenge we have is the time zone difference. Russia's 7 hours ahead of us on the East Coast time. That's 10 hours for a Pacific time zone. And that means that the games are going to be played at 7 o'clock in the morning or earlier, depending on, earlier between 7 and 10 a.m., depending on where you live in the United States. And that's a big factor because it changes viewing habits, and it may mean that people are not necessarily watching on their TV. And the reason that's important to us is because of a little thing called Nielsen. And Nielsen is our ratings service, and for those of you in the advertising and marketing programs, you may have heard of Nielsen, and they measure audience. And audience is directly related to revenue. So for us, the most important thing is maximizing our revenue, and because this is a business opportunity, and our parent company spent hundreds of millions of dollars to buy the rights for us to be able to broadcast these events, and it's important for us to hit our targets. So it's important for us to maximize our audience, especially on the main screen, which is television, but we also have all of the other screens available to us. So that time zone difference will play a factor. We know that the core audience will tune in, so we're not too concerned about that, but in order to retain that audience and build beyond that, we need to make sure that they're aware of where the games are and keep them interested so that they don't miss a minute of the action. All right, now the fun part. Let's talk a little bit about, are we having fun yet? Let's talk about the marketing plan. We started marketing the World Cup, as I mentioned before, the day the Confederations Cup ended, and we took a look at the spot that we showed just to sort of kick off and make it official, where you'd find the World Cup a year from that date. Our plan is really let's call it a three-phase plan. We started with awareness building. Up until about just last week with the 100 Days Out. For the next couple of months, our campaign is really geared toward intent to view, so the message changes a little bit, but it's still a pretty generic message about watching the World Cup on Telemundo and the excitement of it. And then when we start the games, and right before that June 14th date, we will start with a tune-in campaign, which will be topical, specific to games, and the generic messaging will go away. So we'll be working with true tune-in, which is a call to action. The affiliate marketing component, I mentioned that we have 77 broadcast affiliates. Their efforts in promoting the World Cup have been legendary, and I've got some things to show you that we've been doing with them. That's my primary role in the company, is to work with our affiliates. And then we'll take a look at what the marketing and media plan looks like. Here, kids, let's see if I can find this spot somewhere. This is it. Okay. So we started with Juntos here. Here we go. So we built a campaign called Juntos, and Juntos means together. And Juntos is more than just the viewers together, the families together. It also extends to Telemundo and our viewers, and the U.S. and the world, the U.S. Hispanic population and the world, all together appreciating and valuing this sport. So this is a spot that we created to show that.
Hay algo que nos llama, que nos hace soñar. Y que nos junta. Es algo que nos hace vencer el miedo. Que saca lo mejor de nosotros y nos da fuerza. Ese algo es la esperanza. La esperanza nos hace seguir adelante. No deja que nos rindamos. Y cuando tenemos esperanza juntos, nada puede detenernos. Este mundial lo vivimos juntos, en Telemundo.
So we built on that campaign with a number of other spots that I'll show you in a second, which are all part of the Juntos campaign, and they're And so we started with kids because we know that, you know, this is just, again, I referenced the U.S. sports experience. Those of us who were brought up with baseball, football, understanding that game, it's integrated into our being. Same for soccer around the world. So we wanted to play off of that. And then we took it a step further with the Juntos campaign. And we started looking at other ways to express that Juntos concept. And
Señoras y señores, terminó el partido, pero está en el Mundial. 36 años después, los 30 millones de peruanos a lo largo y ancho del país.
And these are short, so we'll play them all. They're 15 seconds. And one more here. We'll do Colombia. So the fun thing about these spots, and the important thing to note, is that there's no voiceover. And we did that, that was designed on purpose, because one of the many rules that FIFA has imposed on us, especially because we are the Spanish language rights holder, is that we're not allowed to promote in English. We can promote on English language platforms, so that gave us the opportunity to run our spot on during the Super Bowl on NBC, and also get exposure during the Olympics on NBC. But we couldn't have any English language words on the screen and no English language voiceover. So we got around that by producing a spot that tells the story visually without the need for a script. And so our plan will continue between now and June 14th, and then through to July 15th, which is the championship, as we build more intent to view and stimulate viewing across, among Hispanics and non-Hispanics alike. So as I mentioned before, we've been counting down for a while. The World Cup draw was on December 1st. We used that as our official December 14th as our 6-month out campaign. And we wanted to do something for stations to get them involved so that the stations at the local level could have some fun promoting the 6 months out concept. And also, the other important thing is we wanted to also make sure that our station personnel become our ambassadors locally and can really stay a part of the conversation with their advertisers. What do I mean by that? Many of our staff at local stations don't speak Spanish and may not have watched the World Cup and may not be familiar with it. But their viewers and their advertisers, who oftentimes at the local level are also viewers, are well versed in the World Cup and in soccer. So we wanted to make sure that they were that we wanted to give them some skin in the game. So we created this kit for them that we called the 6 months out activation kit. We gave them Andres Cantor face on a stick, some penalty cards, yellow cards and red cards. Yellow cards are warnings, red cards are out of the game. And we gave them some instructions and suggestions, thought starters for activating their campaign on air and with their viewers. And the other fun thing that we gave them I know, right? So we sent this kit to the stations and we said, have fun with it. Here's some ideas, do what you like. So some of our stations, I'll just... So we certainly have had a lot of fun with the campaigns. The other, let me find you the one that so that was our 6 months. I know we're running out of time, so I don't want to take up too much time here. But we also here we go. As I said, 100 Days Out, that was a big one for us. And here's a compilation of what happened across the network and around our stations on March 6th.
100 días nada más. 100 días solamente. Son 100 días oficiales los que ya faltan. 100 días. A 100 días de la Copa del Mundo Rusia 2018. Aquí nos vivos, nos unimos a esta fiesta futbolera. Solo 100 días para el comienzo del evento futbolero más importante. Pero para la gente entero. Ahora vamos a ver una probadita de lo mejor de la fiesta de los 100 días aquí en Telemundo.
Soccer, it just seems good to, I don't know, it's fun to watch it. You know what, you're lucky though.
A great chance to call the World Cup, our first World Cup on Telemundo in Spanish.
Y aquí en Telemundo ya se vive con mucha pasión.
Más de 500 horas de programación en nuestras cadenas y más de 1000 en nuestras plataformas digitales.
La cuenta regresiva ha comenzado y los corazones de los fanáticos ya empiezan a palpitar.
Las imágenes de los partidos y las entrevistas con los jugadores en exclusiva solo por Telemundo.
¿Están listos?
It's a wonderful clearance because it's hit with great pace. Más de 500 personas que estarán trabajando desde nuestros estudios centrales y desde Rusia para traerle la mejor cobertura en la historia de la televisión hispana a ustedes en casa.
Este gran festival futbolístico está a punto de empezar y todos sus partidos se podrán ver en vivo, en español, solo por Telemundo, en nuestra cadena hermana Universo.
So with just under 100 days, we still have a lot to do. We have launched a marketing portal that launched yesterday. That's for all of our stations. It's a one-stop shopping area for our stations to gather up and start using the marketing assets that we have been producing for them. We launched an iframe for our stations to install on their websites, which is fed by the Telemundo Deportes website and has up-to-date video. We're active across digital and social platforms as well as on air. So we're covering all our bases to make sure that this is the biggest and best World Cup that the US has ever seen. And I want to leave you with one last spot, and then we'll take some questions. And this spot, among the many programs and the opening video, I'll just mention quickly, the opening video, I wanted to, that's our sizzle reel, our current sizzle reel, and what I wanted you to take away from that is that Telemundo, as a television network, doesn't look anything like what Spanish language television used to look like. And what Spanish language television used to be. We've redefined Spanish language television. We know who our viewers are, we know what they like. They're looking more for high quality programming that looks a lot like what's on the general market English language networks, and that's what we're producing. And in addition to the great drama and the series that we produce, and MasterChef Latino, which is currently on the air, we have some of the best music awards shows, and on television, and one of them is the Billboard Latin Music Awards, the Premios Billboard. This will be our 20th year broadcasting it. Last year, we were able to take advantage of some of one of the biggest hits of the year, and we turned it into a spot for the World Cup. So I think after today, I hope all of you will consider yourselves either more fans or new fans, or at least more informed about the World Cup, and that you'll give Telemundo a try when June 14th rolls around, and certainly by the end of the tournament and by the end of that 30-day period. We hope that nobody in the country will be left out of World Cup fever and World Cup excitement. Vive la Copa Mundial de la FIFA Rusia 2018 en Telemundo. So, questions? And by the way, oh good, thank you, yes?
I have two questions. One, do the local affiliates get to sell spots in the game or no?
Yes.
And then do they stress out at all that so many people are watching it digitally instead of on the TV, or has that become like a reality in life now?
It's a reality.
I saw a study that NBC did after the Olympics and said that the people who watched the most amount of time on the internet were among the biggest television viewers. So
there's a lot of simultaneous viewing that takes place. I mean, they're watching, they're streaming, the Olympics, there's so much coverage on the Olympics, so many sports and so many different venues, and NBC uses multiple platforms to broadcast all of those sports. So, I mean, you've got, the premier sports on NBC that they'll show in prime time, like ice skating and freestyle skiing, and then you've got the biathlon that's not going to make it into prime time, but certainly has a place for them. So the Olympics is for NBC, and that digital streaming is important for them.
So do they get one spot during the game?
No. And the interesting thing about soccer versus any other sporting event on television, from a television standpoint, is that it's nonstop action for the first half. There are no commercial breaks. It's not like baseball or football. Whenever there's a timeout, they go to a break. We don't do that in soccer. So our opportunities to sell advertising take place during the pregame, during halftime, and immediate after the game, the post-game. And we get multiple spots because the break, it's a 15-minute halftime, and during that time there's local and network breaks. So there are about 7 minutes of local advertising in addition to the network advertising. Thanks. Question?
Hello. Yeah, good morning. I want to ask you, so you just said your company is a partner for the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympic. So how about the Winter Olympic?
The Winter Olympics, our research has shown, and our results have shown, that the Winter Olympics are not necessarily popular among Hispanic viewers. So we're not included in the coverage of the Olympics for the winter. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yes?
So when Telemundo decides that they want to buy the rights and pay hundreds of millions of dollars for that, will they realize that money back in its advertising revenue, increasing the advertising revenue, or are there other benefits to having those rights that help it? Like what is the return on investment for Telemundo?
Great, that's a great question. I think, certainly our number one, selling advertising is the revenue generating aspect of this. But the residual benefits of having the World Cup, and I think I neglected to review some important things at the very top here. One of the residual benefits is the opportunity to attract new advertisers and to attract new viewers. The idea during the World Cup is not just to get people to watch the World Cup, but it's also, just like any network would do, it's to use that new audience and those occasional viewers to build awareness and generate interest in our regularly scheduled programs throughout the year. So in essence, that residual benefit gives us an opportunity to grow our business even further throughout the year, and it's not just related to World Cup.
You said you use Horowitz for your research. How dependent are you on that information, on the data that they collect?
It was a proprietary study that we did with them. So it's not, we commissioned them to work with us to build that study. And we work with them on a fairly regular basis for a variety of initiatives.
Talk about how you're attracting U.S. companies to be advertisers.
How we're attracting? Well,
and who are some of the names that you're targeting?
Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, all of the automobile companies, all of the telecom companies. The Hispanic population in the U.S. has reached a critical mass, and so it's no longer, if we should advertise to Hispanics, it's how. And it's important, and that's part of what we do as a network and our competitors as well, is we preach the importance and the value of advertising in Spanish to the Hispanic audience. That has a very huge benefit for advertisers. There's a loyalty factor, there's a connection factor, multiple benefits for advertising in Spanish. And for the most part, most of the large U.S. companies are U.S. Hispanic advertisers, whether they're on the network, at their local level, on a regional level. But we have a business development team that goes and meets with companies who still are not advertising on Spanish language television to pitch the benefits. So we find that on the network, on the national level, the network level, we're in the game with almost all of the major players. At the local level, it's an interesting, it's more challenging because there are a lot of other factors at play for local advertising, and it's a sort of a conversation for another day. But the major advertisers across the automotive category, telecommunications, what we call QSR, which is quick serve restaurants, we do business with all of them.
Maybe if you don't mind sharing, there are a number of business students in the room, some of them interested in marketing, particularly international marketing. Maybe if you don't mind sharing your experience and sort of how you got to that, and maybe some advice that you would provide them.
Sure. You've probably all heard being in the right place at the right time. And that certainly plays a big factor in it. I started my career in advertising, in research, and then moved into planning, and worked with some large advertisers. I was part of the Diet Coke launch, so do the math. But I've worked with some in different categories of advertisers, Unilever and Procter & Gamble, some retail restaurant chains and that sort of thing. And what happened was that the man who was the head of international media and marketing for the agency I was working with saw an opportunity to create an international division for programming and for advertising. And I joined his team, and we did business with international television broadcasters and sold the rights to Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, to produce local versions of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy around the world, in Europe and around the world, and to do advertising deals with them. So it was a stepping stone into international broadcasting and international marketing. And through that, and because it was part of the same agency organization where I had been working, we had agencies in all of those different countries. So it was Lintas, we had Lintas in all of the different countries around the world. Great opportunity, and after about 10 or 11 years working in the international field, there was an opportunity to join Telemundo, and I had always been interested in Hispanic media. I had always kept track of it. I always read the press, the trades, and looked for, where are the opportunities to take the next step. During the time that I was in the international world, I learned, I had studied Spanish in school, but I learned to speak it by traveling and by being overseas, and that I found was key. And I really enjoyed not just the Spanish, the speaking Spanish, but interacting with all of the people who speak Spanish, and really it was a door to another. So it's a door that opens to another world when you speak another language. And I'm sure that the bilingual students in the room would agree. I mean, when you're able to easily communicate in two languages, it's like living in two worlds. And there's lots of crossover, but it's, and as an Anglo, being able to communicate easily with native Spanish speakers, for me, is an advantage. And being part of Telemundo has been tremendous. I mean, I've been there for almost 18 years. I've seen a lot of changes, and truly, over the course of this period of time, seeing the network grow and being part of this growth and being a part of this success has been truly rewarding. And it's really all about, to your point, it's really all about reading the trades, interacting with people who do things that you might like to do, finding ways to network and make connections, and a whole heaping of luck.
I had a question just about segmenting to the U.S. Hispanic audience and how Telemundo goes about that, whether it's getting more granular within that U.S. Hispanic audience to Mexican, Dominican audiences, etc.
Yeah, good question. 2/3 of the U.S. Hispanic population is of Mexican origin, and so when you're in New York, where the population has traditionally been overwhelmingly Caribbean, with Puerto Rican, Dominican, and increasingly over the years, South America, Colombian. From our perspective here in New York, it looks different. But when you're in LA, where 88% of the Hispanic population is of Mexican origin, it really changes things. And for years, we had the challenge of heavy competition from Univision, who gets all their programming from Televisa, which is the world's biggest producer of Spanish language content. They have a long-term deal to run Televisa programming on Univision. So it was almost like it's like leaving your country and going to a new country, and the thing that you have in common there is at least I can watch the same programs. So what we've worked hard to do is to overcome that barrier, let's say, and we've done that by really paying attention to what is it beyond just the country of origin, but what are the factors that Hispanic that the Hispanic population in the U.S. has in common with one another that go beyond their nationality. And it really, from a television viewing perspective, it's how are tastes evolving, how are habits evolving? Let's pay attention to what that is. So that's why when we do research studies with Horowitz and with other companies, and we continually monitor to learn more about our audience and our potential audience. That's how we come up with, the kinds of programming that we're airing. And we want to appeal to a broad cross-section of Hispanics. We're not just programming to the Mexican audience. And so we've done this, and we've successfully done this over the past several years. And the thing about Spanish language television that is very, very different from general market TV is that we program horizontally as opposed to vertically. What that means is that we have the same program in prime time on 5 days a week. So our series are 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, unlike, say, NBC, which runs a different show, except for The Voice runs twice a week, and then you've got different programs in different time slots throughout the entire week. So our risk factor is a little bit higher. So if a program does not catch on, then we've got 4, 6, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, however many weeks of programming to really get through. And on the plus side for us versus Univision, if a program isn't delivering the audience that we want, we produce them. So we can alter the scripts, we can change the pacing, we can highlight a new character, we can work with the script writers and the producers to tweak the production so that we can improve the ratings and build our audience. So we're really the long answer to your question is we're going beyond just the nationalities, and we're talking more about viewing habits and how those are evolving. And certainly for the Hispanic population, huge adapters, early adapters of mobile media, of social media. More Hispanics are using their phones and smartphones and to a lesser extent tablets to consume content on the go than among the non-Spanish speaking population. So we work hard to deliver content on multiple platforms to satisfy that need. I think one more question, anybody? Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how do you plan on catering to non-Hispanic, non-Spanish speaking people? Because where I come from, India, it has 1 billion people, and I'm sure at least 1 million are interested in soccer.
We'll take them.
I think they'd be interested in the fun and flavor your network provides. Absolutely. But they can't speak a word of Spanish, so do you have any plans to target them?
So what we do is, in addition to the targeting that we do directly to the Spanish-speaking audience on with the media that we've chosen and the platforms we've chosen, the bilingual audience, as I mentioned before, we're advertising on the English language platforms that are available to us through NBC, and at the local level, we'll buy English language radio and run spots that communicate, and we'll buy spots on English language platforms. We're not necessarily targeting other demographic nationality groups. It's really, let's say, if it coincides, if the Indian population in the U.S. watches English language television and sees our message, then we're communicating with them. But it's really, we're looking at let's put it a different way. We're looking at the non-Spanish speaking audience as an opportunity, but not segmenting within that.
Well, thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you.